Welcome to the Authentic Life Connection podcast. I'm your host, Seth Lusk. I'm a master certified life coach, author, personal trainer, and nutrition specialist. For over a decade, I've been helping people with their dreams and goals for their life and health. I spent many years watching people get frustrated with their journey in life and giving up on taking actions towards their goals. So I dug in deep to find answers to why so many of us face this same frustration and struggle in life. So in this podcast, we're going to dive in deep on topics surrounding what it means to consistently live a fulfilling and authentic life, where you are unstoppable in taking action towards your dreams and goals. So the only question is, are you ready to start living your most authentic and fulfilling life once and for all? Then let's get started, shall we? Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. For those of you listening in for the first time, welcome. You picked an interesting episode to join in on this week. I know I say that every week, but this week it's interesting because I have a guest coming on with me this week. Her name is Coach Jessica Beebe, and she calls herself the coach's coach. She coaches coaches into building their businesses in the most authentic way possible according to their truest desires and their goals with their business. So this week, I brought Coach Jessica on because I wanted her to share with you all about authenticity in the different areas of her own life, in the areas of creating a business and having goals and going after them. You guys know by now that authenticity is the center of the teachings that I teach and what I help my clients with. And you know, sometimes hearing it from me over and over again, it can become a little bit monotone. So I decided to bring another voice onto the podcast this week to talk with you all about the importance of authenticity. We cover a wide variety of topics this week, not just authenticity, but authenticity is at the core of what we talk about this week. So yeah, I think you guys are going to really enjoy the episode. And at the end, Coach Jessica is going to give you some information about how to get in touch with her. I will also put that in the show notes. So at the end of the episode, if you're interested in contacting Coach Jessica, you can find all of her information and where to contact her there. So without any further ado, here is my conversation with Coach Jessica Perez Beebe. All right, everyone. So I've got Coach Jessica Perez Beebe here with me, and we've been trying to get this Zoom call in the works for a couple of months now. We kept running into a few little roadblocks here. So I've got her on Zoom finally, and I've been wanting to do this podcast for you all for a while. She's got a lot of exciting stuff to share with us today about authenticity, being in our journey, productivity, just ways we can really take care of ourselves in an authentic way. So Coach Jessica, why don't you introduce yourself to my audience?
Hi, Seth, and hello, audience. Thank you for having me on. Like you said, I am a coach. I've been a coach now for over 15 years, and I've been an entrepreneur for 17, going on 18 years. I can't believe that. I have built 4 companies from the ground up. And you know why that's significant is because I know that we're gonna get into talking about how you can live an authentic life, what you talk about in your podcast, and set goals and visions that are authentic to you and that are grounded in something really personal that's going to keep you going, keep you on track, and help you overcome those hurdles. And so a lot of what I want to share today is, how I've been able to overcome so many adversities in my life. I mean, I'm known for not just helping the people that I work with get transformation, but I've created numerous pretty drastic transformations in my life. I was the first kid in my family to even graduate high school, right? Let alone go on to college and graduate and become an entrepreneur. But beyond that, right? So wealth transformation, right? Growing up in poverty and that whole mindset that you have to get through. But I've had a physical transformation from overweight, out of shape smoker with really bad habits to becoming a renowned fitness trainer, athlete, and now pro athlete. And then, just goes on from insecure and, closed off emotionally to deciding that I wanted to have, you know, a connected, meaningful, committed relationship, and using my process, which I use through everything, to actually manifest my husband in exactly 2 days. And it's all the same process that I've used to get results in different areas of life. And it's why I've become known as the coach's coach, because through the years, I've been able to go and teach that to other coaches and other leaders about how is it that you, for yourself, because we have to lead by example, right? How do you get the results in your life consistently in the multiple areas? But then how do you also take that and embed it in your leadership so that you're able to lead other people to think like to have the kind of thinking and mindset and daily habits that will have them get the results that they want. So I've had over 5,000 hours. We added this up recently for our bio of formal training, right? Not just work training, as a life coach, a leadership coach, a strategic intervention coach, health and fitness. So, coaching is coaching. And I believe in coaching so much. I believe in the power of good coaching and the fact that we can positively impact the world one coaching relationship at a time, which is why I have attracted predominantly now, so many coaches and leaders and mentors in my community. And, you know, I know that with the right type of work and mindset, you can create any change or transformation that you desire in any area of your life. And that's really what drives me, right? I teach this process and this thinking and this way of transformation to people because I know the positive ripple effect that it's going to have out into the world. And right now I'm actually writing my first book. And you're an author, and so like when you go to write your first book, you're like, okay, well, I have 10 books in me, so what do I start with?
Yes, that's the hardest part.
That is the hardest part. And so in speaking to my editor and just doing my own like soul searching on that, I realized that the first book and the most beneficial for people is about talking about how you have to live your life and lead your life, and we're going to get into some of that, before you're able to actually lead others, right? Because we've got to, a lot of times, coaches and mentors that come to me who are hitting a wall, right? Not being able to enroll clients, not getting the results they want, not making the impact or the money, is because there's a breakdown in how they're actually leading their lives, right? So we'll get into that authenticity, why, and all of that. And so that's where it starts. And that's, part of the book that I'm writing today. So I have coached in multiple industries: health and fitness, leadership, life coaching, sales, coaching coaches, entrepreneurship. And the reason I share that is what I've learned is that I know how to get results, and that actually it's the same way that you get results. It's the same approach, regardless of its fitness or business or relationship. So I think I gave you a super long answer to who I am and what I do, but hopefully that gives us some jumping off point.
No, awesome. I'm really glad. I love it when people really give. I wanted you to give some details because you have an interesting and huge background here. And yeah, one of, the thing that drew me to you the most was the fact that we both have this kind of background in fitness and in health. And that's what kind of like, I remember you made a post, and I think this was probably close to 6 months ago now. You made a post talking about, from the perspective of being in the bodybuilding world, because you used to do the bodybuilding competitions, that you have to have a why that is authentic for you, that's bigger than just because someone else is going to look at you a certain way, or it's bigger than just because of the attention you're going to get, or it's bigger than just because of the money. It needs to be something
Mm-hmm.
that's like your powerful why. And that sparked me to be like, this is someone I want to come and talk on the podcast, because as
Oh, so cool.
someone who worked in the personal training field for 10 years now, I've seen so many people kind of come in to the bodybuilding community and leave the bodybuilding community. And one of the things that I see that's a huge struggle for so many people in this sort of arena of competition is authenticity, because
Mhm.
there's so much of this comparison culture and so much of this trying to, oh, I don't know, hurry up and get results so that you can feel good enough about
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm.
And to see people that are able to go into that community, arrive in this arena, compete in it, and still have such a healthy image of themselves, and even to help other people who to do the same and have a healthy image of themselves, that's so refreshing to me. And so that's kind of what drew me to want to have you on the podcast, is your center around the authenticity and how important that is
Mhm.
for you too.
So yeah, what you were saying there is it really comes. So that's the case in absolutely anything people pursue in life. It's easy to point out bodybuilding because it's a visual thing, and so it's easy to refer to that. But like I said, I've been coaching people over 15 years in so many industries, and that comparison, or that doing things and pursuing things for reasons that are not strong enough to carry you through. So I'll call those the wrong reasons. That's prevalent everywhere because it's prevalent in society, right? So when you are grounded in who you are and you have a big vision for the thing that you are pursuing, and you know why it's driving you, and it's an internal motivator, not external, then you can step into any arena, whether it be in fitness or in business, in the spiritual world, in your relationships, and be living authentically. And I so many people who hire me who are starting their coaching businesses online are so worried about what other people think about them. If they go out and are authentic, sharing what they really believe, sharing who they really are, what are people going to think about me? Are they going to judge what I'm saying? How do I look on camera? Right? All of these things. And when you're coming from that headspace, it's because you really haven't gotten truly connected to why you're doing it. Because if you're worried about how people perceive you, then you're not doing it for you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. And so there's judgment is going to come at you no matter what you do. I was one of the first people to own a CrossFit gym back before it became it was like back in 2005, way when it was still underground, etc. And, I got so much judgment for that. Then I went into bodybuilding. I got judgment for that. I'll tell you though, also, I was judged when I was overweight and out of shape. So the thing is, you can't to start with authenticity, it means you're not a puppet on a string trying to swing in the direction of where people want you to.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got to be doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And that's going to be individual to you. And some people don't even know how to get to that, to figure that out. And that's one of the main things that's actually the first thing we do with all of our clients, because it doesn't matter how much training you have on the mechanics, on if you're in business, on sales and marketing. It doesn't matter if you have the best trainer that you've hired in the world who gives you the best program and all of that. If you're not doing it for reasons that are really strong, personal, and clear to you, you won't apply, you won't stay consistent, you won't have something that is stronger than the excuses. So when you come up against something difficult, which you will in every single arena of life, you know that, if your why is not strong enough and you're not doing it authentically for you, then and or in service, right, which kind of goes hand in hand, but if you're not clear about the reason you're doing it, you're going to quit.
Yeah. I find it's also a little bit ironic too, because when our why is inauthentic, when the reason why we're doing something has to do with other people, not ourselves, usually the excuses that we have that block us also have to do with those same people that our why is
Absolutely.
attached to. And that's the reason why I think they crumble so quickly, is because they're tied to these other people. It's not tied to something solid that is what you identify with, that is unchangeable, no matter what anyone else thinks.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So, like, as when I got into bodybuilding, it was because I wanted something to challenge me physically different than what I had been doing for so long. And I had built up my fitness center at the time. And we were growing. We grew twice. We moved into a bigger location. Actually, I sold that fitness center in 2015, and it is continuing to thrive. That makes me just incredibly happy, and proud of the work that we put in place for that to happen. But I kind of lost my own drive for why I was wanting to stay in shape and everything, because I got so caught up in helping everyone else and building the business, right? I got disconnected, which can happen, when you're growing and overworking, and so a lot of times you come to these things because there's a break somewhere, and you have to step back and be like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Why am I doing this? Let me set up a clear vision for what I want, so then I know what to focus on and what not to. So I got to that point at this part in my company, and I had gotten to a place where I built team, and really the center could run without me every day. And so was talking to one of my employees, one of my younger trainers at the time, and I said, I really need something different to just challenge me, and also like light up a fire in me and help me to see what I'm really made of. Like, I need a new challenge. And he said, because I really didn't follow the bodybuilding world, he said, I think you would do great in bodybuilding. And my first reaction was, no, like, like I thought of these big muscular women, who take testosterone and get up and, compete in that. And he goes, no. They have a division that they started a couple of years ago, which now is the most popular division and money drawer of the sport, but it's the bikini fitness.
Mhm.
And so, it's still this feminine, but you're all of this stuff. And so I said, you know what? The idea of standing on a stage in a bikini is really kind of frightening. And so for that reason, I'm going to do it. I'm going to see, what this is all about. And so I did it for a personal reason. I wanted a little more structure. I wanted a little more discipline. I wanted to kind of just tap back in to that part of me
Mhm.
that had me build that great company. And I remember I literally picked a show date at, some kind of local, smaller, what do you call it, organization. And the date was just because it was my mom's birthday, and my mom passed away when I was 26. She was 45. So she passed away really young. So I said, oh, there's one, April 12th. Knew nothing about it or anything like that. But anyway, fast forward, I had no idea that I would enjoy the sport so much. Being on stage is probably the least part of the part that I personally enjoy. I've had to really train myself on that, because that's a big part of it, being able to present your work in a way that actually shows it, right? So that's kind of getting off track, but what the process is what I fell in love with. I had no idea I was going to be so good at it and progress so quickly. Never set out to turn pro in the sport, like, so. And I want to stop right there with this little point, because it's really important. when you have a why for what you're doing, you don't know all of the exact things that are going to happen along the way, and you're not trying to predict them. You have a bigger vision. For instance, in this case, I had this vision of just being able to get disciplined, refocused, have something to drive me. And because I stayed in the step I was in and that motivated me to keep going, before I knew it, I was in this position where my coach was like, "You're good. You have an opportunity to turn pro." And I was like, "What?" Like what happened? How did all that happen? Even when I think back to when I made the initial choice to start taking care of myself, um, around age 26, 27, when my mom passed away and said, like, enough is enough. I'm living very mediocre. I know that there is so much more for me, and I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I'm spending time with these people, like all things that were just really holding me back. When I set that goal, when I had created the vision of, or decided I'm going to make healthier choices, it came from this desire to feel better, look better, and to be vibrant and energetic into my senior years. So I was looking at the difference between my family members and my all the type 2 diabetes and all that, just really bad habits, and seeing the results of that in their health, versus I was starting to be exposed to a whole other world where I was around women who were 20, 30 years older and were healthy and vibrant and had great skin. And so my vision at that time was like, you know what? I don't want to be a smoker on my deathbed. I don't want to be you taking all this medication and have type 2 diabetes like my grandparents. Like, I want to start making choices that will have me feel and operate and move in these ways that I saw these other women, right? They became kind of an inspiration for me. So my why was for long-term health.
Mhm.
So then, in like when I was 26, 27, I would have never ever thought I'm going to be on stage doing this, or I'm going to be, a competitive athlete. I didn't think that. I wasn't a competitive athlete in high school, right? So it was just, the point I'm making is, be every day I had to start where I was. So in
Mhm.
the beginning, I wasn't doing anything extreme, right? Bodybuilding is an extreme sport, like any sport is. When you get to that part of competing, it's all extreme. I was nowhere near trying to do that. Are you kidding? That would have turned me off. What I focused on every day were tiny things like drinking water, quitting smoking, you know, taking a yoga class or an exercise class 3 times a week. It started with little things. And then all of a sudden, a year later, it's like, oh, you've lost this much weight, you're doing this. Then my interest in fitness just started to grow. And I noticed that as I prioritized my health and created disciplines and daily, habits for myself, I started to really up level in every other area of my life,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? Like that focus, that discipline, and seeing the results, those transformations, it really, really had me dive deep into this journey of growth in all areas of life. And so if you just start where you are, and try not to skip all of these steps and get to the end, quote unquote end. There is no end, but that
Yeah.
result. Because as soon as you get to that result, you're going to set another goal. We're humans, like even if you look at
Or
the work of Esther Hicks, it's like you're always going to be, imagining the next step.
right. And hitting, everyone always imagines when they hit the goal that that's when they're gonna feel fulfilled. That's when they're gonna feel good about themselves. But if there's, we go back to the beginning, what we were talking about here. If we don't have an authentic and powerful why, then when we hit that goal, we don't get that fulfillment because we don't even know why we did it anymore. And
And
that
that's
brings us.
right, Seth. And I'll say though, the the fulfillment is while you're pursuing it.
Yes,
I got
exactly.
to tell you, I've won so many times as a pro, as an amateur in a couple different sports. The fulfillment is not with the trophy. It's not standing on. Trust me, that's like a 5 second thing. It might last for the night as you're, celebrating, but that's not where the fulfillment comes. It
Right.
is in that process of you doing it, becoming it, who you become along the way, the ripple effect it has in your life. You got to do things that support the lifestyle that you want. If you are trying to do something to impress others or because you think you should, even if you quit a bad habit for someone else, that's not authentic. You're not going to end up staying off the drink or the smokes or whatever it is, right? It always has got to come from that deeper drive for something bigger. Same thing in business. So many people are attracted to working online because they have this perception based on social media that is you're going to make this easy 6 figures, 7 figures, blah blah. You make your own hours. Oh, it's over, and that's a terrible reason to get into business, right? Because it won't sustain you if you're chasing money, especially coaching. Coaching is all about connection.
Yeah.
So money is not a strong enough why. It just isn't. When you have a strong why, you end up staying the course and the money comes as a result. It's just
Right.
extra.
This is what I
Yeah.
keep telling people too. Well, two things
Hmm.
that I want to kind of reverberate there that you said is that number one, when you're doing something for someone else, it's not fulfilling. Even if you achieve the
Mm-mm.
goal, it's not fulfilling because it wasn't for you. And I have people come to me all of the time with health goals, wanting to lose weight, wanting to change how they eat, wanting to change the way that they sleep, all because their spouse wants it, their kids want it, their mom wants it, their dad wants it.
Hmm.
And I always tell them up front, listen, if we don't make this for you, it doesn't matter if we can change whatever. You're not going to feel fulfilled because the reason why isn't for you. So
Yeah.
that's the first thing I wanted to hit on there. Then the second part, of what you were saying is, being in the journey, being in the process, and that this is where the fulfillment comes from. And
Yes.
that it's if we're waiting until the end to give ourselves that validation that we're doing something for ourselves, that we're worthy of love, that
Yes.
we're changing something in our life. If we wait until we get to a destination to give that to ourselves, we didn't learn
That's
how
right.
to give that to ourselves. We're waiting on the external, the destination, to give us a feeling that we're responsible for giving for ourselves.
Well, and if it's so true, and Esther Hicks is someone that I read her a lot. I study her. If you look up um, "Ask and It Is Given," and I'm Christian, but still to me, I'm so connected to that spiritual aspect of, and even in the Bible, it talks about the power of your mind to create what you want, right? When I was still overweight and I was working towards this vision that I had for myself, instead of beating myself up and talking negative to myself and my body, I started adopting these mantras and these ways of talking to myself and being with myself that were acts of self love along the journey, right? And I would ask myself that day, okay, how does that healthy future version of Jessica, like, how does she, what does she choose to do? How does she eat, right? Like, let me start envisioning who she is because that's who I'm becoming. And so I would make those choices in those moments. And because of that, I was already feeling good. It wasn't me waiting until I lost 15 or 20 pounds to feel good. It's Esther talks about the only reason we desire something ever is because of how we believe it's going to make us feel when we have it. We
Yes.
don't necessarily know how we're going to feel when we have it, but it's what we believe. So the
Yes.
first step is start feeling that way now.
Yes.
And it's all energy. And so
Mhm.
then you're going to start attracting more of those circumstances and people and opportunities, and before you know it, your vision has just expanded and gone way beyond anything
Mm.
that you could have come up with in your limited thinking anyway.
Right. And also I find it so we live in this sort of culture that because we obsess over the result and the result giving us the feeling that we want to have, we go through that process of beating like almost like self-deprecation to get us to
Yeah.
the result that we want here. And we're hoping that when we get there, we're going to feel this thing that we want to feel, and we're not giving it to ourselves the entire way. And so, yeah, I find it ironic that people almost are afraid to adopt that mindset of giving themselves love now because it's like they're
Hmm.
afraid that then they won't put in the work. And I'm like, no, it's actually the exact opposite. You're afraid to put in the work
Yes,
because you have this mindset that it's all
that's
about
right.
restriction, that it's all
And
about deprivation.
exactly. You believe you're not going to enjoy it. You believe it's going to be hard. Whatever you believe, you're going to create evidence for, right?
Right.
It's why it's really pointless to argue politics and religion. Like whatever someone believes, there's evidence for it. We can find it, we can create it. And so you've got to be really careful in your goal setting. And I want to make a distinction here. The vision is what matters. You need to be
Mhm.
focused on the bigger vision. Goals are just little things that you set along the way. They're actions
Yeah.
that will help you move to that, right? To that vision. Um, and there was something you said that just slipped my mind. Oh, hopefully it'll pop back in because it was really good. And I wanted to add something to that, but that's okay. It'll come back if it if it needs to. But yeah, it's really about why are you doing it and how can you enjoy it in the
Yes.
process.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
I hate to tell you this, this is like I know this is good. My husband is like, stop saying that. It sounds so morbid, but I always say it. You might not be here tomorrow. I mean, that's a huge reality for me. I got my biggest wake up call when my mom suddenly was killed in a car accident 1 month after she turned 45. I mean, I'm already older than my mom was when she passed away. And I remember sitting on the bathroom floor in my aunt's house after she had given me the news and being so overwhelmed, right? Overcome with grief. I was sick, I was dry heaving, but there was some clarity that overcame me in that moment, literally sitting on the bathroom floor. And it was like something was speaking to me, something, someone, God, my mother, spirit, energy. And it was like, your life is right now. This is the
Mhm.
only moment you have right now. That's huge for someone like myself who is very I am forward thinking. I don't focus on the past, I focus forward. But in that moment it reminded me you can have visions for the future, but your life is happening right now.
Yes, absolutely.
And you might not have tomorrow. And it
Right.
really lit a fire in my ass, Seth. I'll tell you. It was just like from that point forward, I just said, I've got to be brave. I've got to take, step out there and do the things that I really feel in my heart. And it's why I stepped into entrepreneurship because I
Yeah.
had that calling always, but I was afraid. I had a secure job, I had great benefits, I was making great money. There was no one in my family who did anything like that or was even supporting that decision. It was like, no, you don't let go of a great job. There's that older mindset. So, but when you know why you're doing something and you really believe it in your heart, and you have a vision for where it could potentially go, then you take those chances, you take those risks, because it's worth failing for when
Mhm.
you care about it and believe in it that much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then like you said, it's being so we've got the authenticity, we've got the powerful why, being in the journey, and
Hmm.
being able to allow yourself to recognize, like, sure, I'm envisioning a future, but the future never actually happens because when it
That's
comes
right.
right now, and
That's right.
right now is when everything happens. And so in this moment, I've got this vision of my future, but the only time that I can ever enjoy life is in this moment. So what can I do for myself in this moment to bring me closer to that vision that I have of
Mm-hmm.
myself, so that right now I'm already enjoying that life that I know that I'm capable of, that I have that vision of.
Yes.
And I call it giving gifts to my future self. That's what I
Oh,
call
that's
it. Instead of
beautiful. I love that.
instead of this whole, like, we have this whole mindset of, like, especially surrounding fitness and nutrition, it's about
Mm-hmm.
restriction, it's about deprivation, it's about starving yourself, it's about, oh, I'm not allowed to have that, I can't have that, I shouldn't have that. Well, no, it's about freedom, it's about making choices that empower you.
Choices.
Yes, it's about making
Choices for
empowered
the
choices.
result that you desire.
Yes.
I eat for the results that I want, for the feeling that I want. And also, it's all perspective. It's
Hmm.
really interesting to me that people like say, oh, in bodybuilding, like that's not healthy because you're restricting, you're doing this. And it's like, but in the spiritual world, it's okay to fast for 30 days, right?
Right.
We're eating every single day, we're getting balance. Are we restricting our calories for a certain period of time close to the show? Of course we are. It's an extreme sport where you're only going to see all of that musculature when you have a lower body fat percentage, right? But it's for that reason, and if your why is strong enough, then that doesn't matter, right?
Right.
I mean, what we see, it's much more detrimental to overeat in the excesses that we do, and so it's easy for people to judge or say all of these things. But at the end of the day, what I always tell people who are worried about that is nobody knows your inner workings,
Hmm.
what's driving you, what matters to you. And so people make assumptions all the time from the outside looking in. And no matter how much you try to explain yourself or prove yourself, it's not going to really make a difference, right? So, because people have their own agenda or their own limited thinking or their own perception, we all perceive things differently.
Hmm.
Also, our perceptions change with our experience, with our age. I mean, all of you listening right now can think of at least one thing that you now believe that you did not believe before,
Yes,
or
absolutely.
that you
Or
no
millions
longer
of things.
believe that you
Yeah.
did believe, right? And so it's like when we're so certain about everything and what's right and what's wrong, we really foot in mouth, right? I can't tell. I learned that anything I've been 100% certain about is going to prove me wrong at some point, right? So
Mhm.
it's, be fluid in your thinking as well, and focus on you.
Yeah.
Focus on you. Now, this sounds super selfish, everything we're talking about, because I believe a life of serving people. And if you're in a rut, go do something for someone else and you will feel better and that will help you
But by
snap out.
focusing on you, you allow yourself
That's
that
it.
ability to serve others.
That's right. That's exactly it. So it's like take care of your lawn, right? Before you go out and try to help somebody else,
Grow their
with
lawn.
their lawn. Yeah, yeah. You've got to, you've got to know what works, and and it's all energy. When you start prioritizing the things that are important and that really matter to you for the long haul, for the rest of your life, then it's easy to eliminate all of the other distractions,
Hmm.
including people that may be
Hmm.
distractions, right? Like it's seeing where you want to go, and noticing that clutter that is like not part of the path, right? Like
Yeah.
moving away those pieces. I really call it the art of subtraction.
Yeah.
It's not about adding more, it's about subtracting when
Are
you really
you
want to become a high performer in your life.
are you familiar with Nirael? Nirael.
um
He's an author. He wrote a book called Indistractable. Um,
no.
you should check out the book because
Oh,
I think you'll
okay.
find it really interesting, because this whole topic of distraction is just that. It's about freeing ourselves from the things that don't allow us to make traction towards our goals.
Yes.
And that's what distraction is. It's all the clutter that either keeps us sitting still or keeps us going in another
Hmm.
direction that isn't the vision that we have moving forward. And
Yes, and a lot of times people get stuck in indecision because of all the clutter that they have, right? Which is the worst place to be in indecision, that gray area, right? Because at least anytime you make a decision and you take action, you're going to get feedback from that decision from universe, and then you can course correct, right? You need to actually decide and take action in order to know what's working and what's not. When you just sit there trying to figure it all out, before you take action, and you want that certainty, well, you'll never get anywhere, and you'll more distractions just come, right?
Right.
Because you're in that head space, that
You know,
overthinking.
it's interesting that are you familiar with Brooke Castillo, the life coach Brooke
The
Castillo?
life, yep,
Yeah, she talks
yep.
about this quite often, and I find it to be so true. We love to indulge in confusion because it's like a comfortable blanket, When
It
you're
really
confused,
is.
you can just wrap yourself up in confusion and be like, I can't do anything. I'm confused.
So
And
true.
it's such a, like, we feel uncomfortable in confusion, but at the same time, it's comforting because it's at least a familiar discomfort. It's a
That's
space,
right.
and we can get stuck there if we don't
It's what
recognize.
they talk about in abusive relationships. It's like it doesn't feel good, but it's a pain that you're used to and comfortable with. So people stay in it rather than take the risk of feeling something else or doing something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, indecision is I see one of the number one things that robs people. And I can catch myself if I'm starting to get, we all can feel it, And so you have to just learn how to discern between when you're being smart and taking your time with something, which that's required at certain points, right? Other times you need to accelerate, and you need to discern between when you're slowing down to listen, to take time, versus when you're just wallowing in indecision and you're overthinking. And you'll know that there's a difference, because when you're slowing down and taking time to make a decision, it's because you already have clarity.
Yes.
You know where you want to go, and so there may be some things that you're weighing or waiting on, but the confusion part is just kind of chaos, and you're distracted, and you're scrolling social media 2-3 hours a day, and you're just watching Netflix all day, like you get to the end of the day and you haven't accomplished anything of real significance, even if that one thing is, for some people, just taking quiet time that day. But for most people, it's their lack of productivity,
Right.
and that's why they're frustrated with not getting the results they want.
I also, there's a little tool that I kind of use for myself when I'm in this place of, if I can't decide, am I in a space where I'm trying to get clarity, or am I in a space where I'm playing confused because I don't want to take action? And what I always do is I use fear as my pointer. Whichever,
Okay.
if fear is telling me you need to hurry up and take action because if you don't, you're going to miss out on something, I know what it is that I need to slow down. I need to get time to
Hmm.
get clarity and know what it is that I want and take a decided action, because fear is trying to push me from away from knowing what it is that I truly want, because it's afraid that
Yeah.
when I know what I truly want, I'm going to go for it. Or
Yes.
is fear telling me, oh, no, 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 you're confused. Don't take action right now, because if you take action, you're going to mess something up. So I always kind of use, what is fear telling me? And then I use fear for my friend and say, okay, so fear is trying to tell me to do this. So let me give fear a new job here.
I love it. And when you ask that question too, and I love that, I think that is so good. Um, One of the things we also need to be careful of is fear and excitement often can feel the same. And
Yes.
so if we're not used to asking those questions and really tuning in, we miss out on a lot of stuff because we mistake that excitement of what's to come for fear. For example, almost every athlete I know, and including myself to this day, there's always a nervous energy leading up to the event.
Mm-hmm.
Most people would consider that fear. I know and identify it as an excitement. It's a nervous excitement, and you don't know what the outcome's going to be, right? So you could, and that's one of the things that holds people back, is the fear of not knowing what's going to happen. But if you can discern that sometimes you're having that feeling that you think is fear because you're really excited and you care about the thing that you want to do, right? And so you've got to just learn to breathe through that and stay focused, have your things that ground you and remove the things that distract you. A lot of times when I find, because I used to do, predominantly life coaching with people who were stuck and wanted to get to a next step, right? Whether it's their relationship, their fitness, their health, their career, anything. Sometimes the biggest distractions is the company that we're keeping.
Absolutely.
And so if you're trying to move up a level, but you're surrounded only by people who want to stay at a certain level, you're not, it's going to be hard to feel the clarity. You're going to have different voices and energies that are in permeating you, that are wanting you to stay safe. And
Mm-hmm.
so you've got to look around you and say, am I in the right environment? It doesn't mean you got to get rid of people entirely. Sometimes you do, but most of the time it's just setting those boundaries and then looking outside and saying, where are some communities or people, whether that's online or in person, that have similar goals or ambitions? I'm telling you, once you get around that energy, you start to realize, oh, I'm not so different. I'm not so crazy. I'm not, you got to find your people, right?
Yes.
Only people in the bodybuilding world understand my bodybuilding. I don't put that on my family or my friends or people who are like, I don't need them to understand why I do what I do. But I
Mhm.
certainly do need to connect with a community of people who do, because it's what, really kind of keeps you going. And you just, we all need connection with people and that support for what we're trying to pursue.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've got about a few minutes left before I know you need to
Okay.
run. You've got a busy schedule. So I just want to do a quick little recap of what we've talked about today and give you a minute to give some closing thoughts for the audience.
Okay.
So today what we've talked about as far as kind of what you do is helping people find their authentic and powerful why. And once we have that authentic,
Yes.
powerful why, we can be in our journey and be in every step of our journey exactly where we are, not 20 steps ahead, and love ourselves through the whole process, not just once we get to a certain destination. So these
Mm-hmm.
are key parts of succeeding in setting and going after our goals unstoppably. And then you mentioned this briefly in there, and it's an important thing that I want to bring out of the conversation because we didn't give it a ton of airtime today.
Okay.
So important that we zoom out when we're setting our goals and set our
Yeah.
goals in a way that they're designed to be lifelong lifestyle changes, not these quick fix kind of results that our culture sort of throws on us as being what we want. We want that instant gratification, you know.
And I'll give you a quick example for so that it really lands for the listener. It's the difference between someone who comes to you and says, I want to lose 20 pounds in 2 months to fit into my wedding dress, right? Versus the person who comes to you and says, I really want to start, adopting some healthy habits and exercising because, I just want to live a long, healthy life. I want to feel better, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
If you zoom out to look at what the bigger reason is for pursuing something, then those small goals along the way are easy. They're easy. But when you just make the goal, it's something temporary that isn't connected to anything that you want to continue, to pursue, that's way more difficult. I mean, it sounds counterintuitive, but when you zoom out to the bigger picture, like for me, if I were just so focused on, I want to, make this much money this year in my business or this quarter. I mean, yes, you need those smaller goals to keep you taking action so you don't get complacent. But if that was all I was doing, it's not going to keep me going. So I always start with, I the bigger vision is that the more people that I coach and teach this to, that's going to impact their life. They're going to be able to teach it to others. It's going to positively ripple effect everywhere. Like, this is how I'm going to live for the rest of my life. With that in mind, I'm not in a rush or I don't feel like a failure if I didn't hit a certain goal in 30 days or 60 days, right? It's like, do what you're going to do because it matters to you for your lifetime here on earth. And it's part of your purpose. Like, you can really feel, and your lifestyle. I would never get into the sport of bodybuilding if my lifestyle wasn't already such that I love to be in the gym every day, that the structure really helps me. The people who get into it because of like weight loss goals, or they want abs and all of that, those are the people that are going to do extreme things. They're going to hurt their body. They're not going to take care of themselves. They're trying to get the quick. And that's why they then say, oh, bodybuilding is so terrible. It's so this, it's so that. No, it's your come from. And when you have a different come from and a different intention, it's going to require you to do actions that match that, right? So short-term gains, lifetime gains.
Yes, absolutely. So we've talked about a lot of fascinating stuff. I know you need to run here. So just really quick, can you tell my audience, where's the best place for them to get in touch with you? If they want to find you and get in contact with you, where can they find you? I know you've got a great Instagram presence.
Yeah. So if you go to my website, jessicaperezbeebe.com, I have a ton of free resources on there for anybody who's, wanting to be more productive, or if you're in business, or you just, want to streamline in your life and learn how to, focus on the bigger picture. And I teach workshops. I actually have one coming up September 19th, 20th, and 21st. I do a 3-day workshop on getting people connected to their why, to the bigger vision that they have for their life, and or business. And so you can always look for that. But on Instagram for coaching, I am Coach Jessica. So I am Coach Jessica. And then I also have just a lifestyle Instagram for those of you who are interested in the fitness stuff and all of that. And that's Jessica Perez Beebe. But, just type in that name and there's nobody else who has that name, Perez-Beebe.
Yes.
And you'll have that all linked here, right?
Yes. I'm going to link everything in the show notes for you guys, so you don't have to have that memorized. Jessica, it was really great having you on the podcast. Thank you for coming and talking to me.
Great conversation, Seth. Thank you for what you're doing and all the positive impact that you're creating.
Awesome. Great. I hope we can collaborate some more in the future and talk again. So.
As well.
All right.
Thanks, Seth.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the content of this podcast. If you did, please subscribe so that you're one of the first people to know when I release a new episode each week. If you have any questions, or if you have interest in learning more about the coaching that I do with my clients one-on-one, then just head over to my website at www.lifecoachseth.com. That's www.lifecoachseth.com. There you're going to have the ability to reach out to me for questions that you might have, or to book your free discovery call with me to discuss what one-on-one coaching with me might be like for you. You can also check out and order your copy of my book to get a taste of what I'm all about as a person and as a coach. I'm so happy that you joined us today, and I hope to have you here again next week. So until then, let authenticity be the guide to your most unstoppable and fulfilling journey of life.